Her home is considered to be incredibly haunted, and the story surrounding her is sordid and very disturbing. And I'm talking about Madame Delphine
Oh,
LaLaurie.
of course.
Madame LaLaurie has a reputation of being one of the most notorious serial killers in the US. The LaLauries had a house on a corner in New Orleans. It's a very interesting house. It's a little Winchestery because each story is a different architectural style from the one below it. It's a very odd looking house. And I personally believe that that alone can cause hauntings. You know, you got this like distorted style and all sorts of like weird comings together that shouldn't come together. I think that just creates weird energy. I think that's part of the reason the Winchester Mansion is haunted. The story behind Madame LaLaurie. If you have seen American Horror Story Coven, Kathy Bates's character is based on this woman. Now, preface this, the LaLauries were very, very wealthy and well-respected members of New Orleans society. They threw these lavish parties, everybody liked them. And then one day, the house caught fire. And the people rushed in to help. And they discovered that the fire had been started by an enslaved woman who had been chained to a stove. And then, as they moved upstairs to the attic, they saw the most horrific sights. And I will not speak of all of them because they are horrendous.
Yeah.
But the stories were of basically the legend was when one of their servants got sick, they disappeared. They went into the attic and then they were experimented on by Delphine's husband, even though she gets the blame for everything, and Delphine herself. Yeah, like people seem to forget that he was
Right?
yeah, he was the one that supposedly was up there like sawing off legs and gluing them on in different places and creating crab people and seeing how long a person could survive with gangrene. Like really, really terrible stories. They get more elaborate every year. But no, Madame LaLaurie is the one that got blamed. But I mean, she's no saint. Let's call it what it is. She was driven out of town. She fled to France. Once this was discovered, everybody who could be saved was saved, and it became this notorious story all over New Orleans. And to this day, you can walk by the LaLaurie Mansion. They advise you not to walk too close because of the feelings you'll get, the feelings of sickness. But you can stand across the street and your tour guide will tell you all of the horrible, heinous crimes. He will even tell you that the Nazis were inspired by LaLaurie's husband and his experiments. And then he'll say it's kind of surprising that Madame LaLaurie was never punished for her crimes. And to her dying day, she didn't understand why everyone was so upset with her. How horrible of a woman must this have been? Unless it's not true. So here's the thing. There was a neighbor across the street, Monsieur Montiel, or something like that. I can't speak French. I took German and Arabic.
Very different.
Yeah, I wanted to be an Egyptologist, so that's why I took those languages. I can't speak French, so I eventually got an art degree. It probably would have been useful. So, anyway, Montreuil, or how you pronounce his name, had a crush on Delphine, and she spurned him.
Well, she was married.
Well, yeah. Interestingly enough, when reporters came to talk about the fire and see what's going on, the person who provided the facts about all the horrors that were found in the attic was Montreuil. It got written down and passed from one journalist to the next, and then it became the stuff of folklore. No wonder poor Delphine didn't realize what she had done wrong, if she never did it.
Huh.
Now, I will say this. She was no saint, nor was her husband. Let's continue to bring him into it because, God forbid, she gets all the blame.
Yeah.
They did treat these people brutally. They did chain them up at night. They whipped them. But this is the worst part. That was actually kind of commonplace in this day, at least out in the country, in the Louisiana countryside where Delphine was from. That was commonplace. Genteel New Orleans society tended to be a little bit more respectful of the enslaved people. And so, yes, when they broke in, they probably would have been horrified to see people chained to the wall.
Yeah.
But the experimentation, all that horrible stuff, there's absolutely no real record, solid record, that took place. It's just become the stuff of folklore by a spurned man.
So we know that Delphine was unrepentant because she didn't understand what she had done wrong. What about her husband's side of the story?
You know, they don't talk about him. It's all about her. It's all about her, the notorious serial killer of New Orleans. Yeah.
Okay.
Go look it up for yourself.
Right.
See what you can find about him.
Women's history, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
No.
Oh my gosh. So, although brutal, Delphine wouldn't know what she was doing wrong because she was raised in a house where this was how human beings were treated on the reg. And so she was just like, what, all these city folks are so laissez-faire about their slaves. I'm going to chain mine up still because that's what I was raised with and that's how we do it in my family. And everybody was like, yep, that seems normal. Okay. Until this one dude started his whole, well, like, you have an affair with me or else I'll tell the newspapers you're a horrible torturer and murderess.
Pretty
campaign.
much, yeah.
I never really thought of it that way. That's fascinating.
Now,
So you still get bad feelings when you go by the house. Has anybody actually done some investigation of this house? Paranormal investigation?
oh yeah. So first of all, it became a girls' school after all this.
Oh, jeez.
For underprivileged children, a lot of whom were minorities. And so they didn't have a very good experience there. There are a lot of reports of hair pulling and footsteps. First of all, it became apartments in the 1870s after they rebuilt it. And the children were saying things were happening, but the parents weren't believing them, of course. And then there were other reports from adults starting to see people in the mansion. It became an all-girls school in the Victorian era, and the girls reported being pinched, being hit, being slapped. And whenever the teacher would ask, like, what's going on? Who's doing this to you? They just responded with, that woman. Here's another interesting thing. It's considered to be a cursed building. Everybody who has bought the mansion since has gone into financial ruin afterward. The most recent was Nicolas Cage.
What?
I believe he went bankrupt after he bought it.
Why would he buy that?
He's a goth at heart.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, that's just brutal. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So, yeah, I'm not gonna put it on my list of places I want to live in or buy
Your
one
short
day.
list, yeah. Okay.
Even if the stories aren't true, it's still just so disgusting. I don't think I could stomach living there.
I can't blame you. Even just hearing the
Now,
story,
Diana,
it doesn't
you-
matter if it's true. Just hearing it is enough to turn your
Yeah,
stomach.
it's pretty horrible. Well, now, Diana, you used to live in New Orleans.
I did, but I did not live in a haunted mansion, thank goodness.
But did you visit it? Did you visit the LaLaurie
I
Mansion?
lived within walking distance of it. What corner is it on? Do you know?
So let me look at a map here. It is on the corner of Royal and Governor Nichols Street.
Okay. Yeah. No, I used to walk to work from the 7th Ward. Probably would have walked pretty much by it in a roundabout way when I walked to work every day.
So you didn't know what it was. Do you remember ever feeling, I don't know, fear or something off on your walks, or was that just New Orleans?
No, it's just New Orleans. I mean, you could feel the difference from different neighborhoods, walking through a neighborhood versus the next neighborhood versus the next neighborhood. And I always loved the French Quarter because it just felt so thick, you know? I mean, you know, if you've been there, you know, you just walk into the French Quarter and you're like, oh, this is heavy. This is different.
It's like hard to walk through the air. It's almost like a soup of energy.
When I was a kid, I would hold my breath when I went in for as long as I possibly could.
That's interesting.
The whole way up Esplanade, I would hold my breath. You know, it's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was afraid. Here's the thing. When I was like 7 years old and my parents took me there and we were walking around, I'm guessing probably up Esplanade on the edge of the quarter, I was just like, I'm so afraid that I'm going to get sick if I breathe here. Like, I'm going to get a fever.
Interesting.
And then they were
Yellow fever?
Somebody like later on in my life when I was a teenager, they were like, oh, there's a pandemic of yellow fever came through here, wiped out a huge amount of people. They're buried right there in that cemetery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on those streets during that time, they were piled so high that if you had to walk through, you would have been walking through bodies. I've been to New Orleans.
You've been inside the LaLaurie house?
Oh no, I haven't been inside. I've been across. I've walked by it, knowing what it was, and not wanting to get any closer.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This is why I do love living in the South, despite its horrors. Maybe that's because, it's so dark. It's so dark.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a dark place. And we occasionally crawl up from our little swampy holes and push aside the Spanish moss and look out and say, oh, it's actually really pretty. And then we close it back up and then we crawl back into the swamp.
But that was before there was indoor plumbing, right?
Yeah. Well, the South just got indoor plumbing like 30 years ago, so
Oh man.
I have used an outhouse with a JCPenney catalog. Yeah. So that's what you use for toilet paper. It's a JCPenney catalog. You didn't know that? Specifically.
All right.
Thank you all for popping in and listening to us. We appreciate it. You guys we really do appreciate it. Thanks for listening to us tell our very, very scary tales of murderous women.
And after all that, I think I'm going to have a spooky day.